You won't find their names in headlines. They don't stand in the spotlight or post highlight reels of their lives. But if you want to know what real strength looks like, don't look at the man in the boardroom, look at the man with dust on his boots, calluses on his hands, and eyes that have seen more early mornings than sunrises. The blue-collar worker doesn't seek fame. He lives next door. He built the roads. He repaired the wiring. He raised a family on tired legs and a paycheck that was always stretched thin. Still, he kept going. In a world that praises luxury and fast success, he stood firm. Not because life was easy, but because quitting was never an option. This isn't just about a job. It's about a mindset passed down from generation to generation. When you come from a working-class background, you don't wait for someone to give you something. You earn it. From the first time you saw your father tighten his bootlaces before dawn, you learned that effort was expected. You don't complain about the pain, you keep moving. You don't wait for comfort, you build it with your own hands. You don't just make it through life, you fight for a place in it. The world doesn't highlight this kind of story anymore. It celebrates fast attention, online fame, and shortcuts. But in small towns and job sites, in garages and behind loading docks, people keep showing up, quietly, dependably. They don't talk about consistency, they live it. They don't talk about hard work, they do it, not for approval. Not for followers. Just because it's the right thing to do, he remembers watching his dad come home from work, dirty and tired, but still fixing the kitchen sink or mowing the lawn. He remembers his mother staying up late to balance the budget and stretch what little they had. It wasn't dramatic. It was routine. And it taught him early that respect doesn't come from money or power, it comes from how you carry yourself, when no one's watching. As he got older, that lesson stayed with him. He might not have had the best education or opportunities, but he had something stronger: persistence. He kept going when others stopped. He did the job even when it was thankless. Some people have the option to chase inspiration. The blue-collar worker doesn't have that luxury. He wakes up early because he has to. There are bills to pay, groceries to buy, kids to raise. It doesn't matter if he's tired or uninspired. He shows up because responsibility doesn't take a day off. And when others avoid pressure, he adapts to it. When others wait for someone to help them, he figures it out himself. You can see the years on his hands, worn down from lifting, building, fixing, and working through cold, heat, and stress. Every scar tells a quiet story of something that went wrong, but was fixed anyway. His voice carries weight, not because it's loud, but because it comes from experience. He doesn't need to talk much. People who've been through real struggles often don't, but when he does speak, it means something. He's not flashy, but he's grounded. And that counts for more than people realize. There's something deeply admirable about someone who always finishes what they start, who keeps promises, who teaches their children by example, not speeches. He may not live in a big house, but he creates a stable home. He may not have a high-paying title, but his family depends on him, and he delivers. He doesn't need to be reminded to be strong. He already is. What most people miss is that workers like him don't ask for recognition. They don't want awards or sympathy. They just want to be respected for what they do and how they live. Because they carry more than tools, they carry responsibility. They fix what's broken. They show up when others don't. And when society needs to be rebuilt, they're the ones who quietly make it happen. He may drive an old truck and wear worn-out boots, but his character runs deep. He's part of a legacy of people who built towns, raised families, and created real value with honest work. That's not something you can fake. It's not something you can rush. It's learned through years of effort and sacrifice. It's the core of what keeps communities moving forward, not noise, but reliability. So the next time you see someone walking out of a factory or climbing off a roof after a long day, think about what it takes to do that every single day. It's not just about physical labor, it's about responsibility. It's about doing what needs to be done even when no one notices. That's what defines a true worker. Someone who doesn't chase attention but earns respect quietly. This story matters because it reflects the reality of people who carry the weight of everyday life on their shoulders. They don't ask for shortcuts. They don't expect rewards, but through steady effort, they provide for others and build something lasting. The blue-collar worker doesn't need a spotlight to prove his value. The world around him already shows the results of his effort, and that's enough. The world doesn't understand the weight a blue-collar worker carries because it's not always visible. There's no applause when he gets out of bed before the sun rises. No audience when he leaves the warmth of his home to step into cold mornings or blazing heat. No one cheers when he carries the burden of a family's future on his shoulders. But he does it anyway, day in, day out. Not because someone told him to, not because he's addicted to suffering, but because he takes pride in being dependable. Because somewhere along the way, someone taught him that being reliable is a form of love. And he never forgot it. The blue-collar life is not glamorous. It's not about suits and conference rooms. It's about steel-toe boots, long shifts, and showing up for people even when your own tank is running on empty. The worker who lives this life knows what it's like to be sore, to be tired, and to still keep going. He knows what it feels like to give his all and still come up short sometimes, not because of a lack of effort, but because life can be relentless. Yet, he doesn't let it turn him bitter. He wakes up again, tightens his belt, and walks back into the fire. You see, pride in this world doesn't come from applause or promotions. It comes from knowing that at the end of the day, your hands built something, your work mattered. Your paycheck didn't just pay bills, it proved something, that you didn't give up even when it would have been easier to. That you didn't make excuses. That you stood firm in a world that constantly tries to wear you down. In this life, every scar, every blister, every sore muscle is a badge of honor. It means you chose effort over ease, commitment over comfort, pride over pity, and that pride doesn't come cheap. It costs time with your kids when you have to take overtime. It costs weekends spent on job sites instead of barbecues. It costs holidays that blur together because work doesn't take a break. It costs pain, the kind that settles into your knees and back and reminds you that you've given more than your fair share. And yet, he carries it all with quiet dignity. Not because he wants anyone to feel sorry for him, but because that's how he was raised, to stand tall, to work hard, to carry burdens without dropping them in someone else's lap. There's a strength in this life that can't be measured in gym numbers or social media likes. It's the strength of consistency. The strength to show up not once, not when it's convenient, but every single day. That kind of strength takes discipline, it takes sacrifice, and most of all, it takes heart. Because it's easy to show up when things are going well. It's when your body aches, when the bills pile up, when the job gets harder and the pay stays the same. That's when your character is tested. That's when the real work begins. He doesn't do this for fame. He doesn't do it for praise. He does it because someone has to. Because his family depends on him. Because bills won't wait. Because when it all comes down to it, he knows one thing. Quitting isn't an option. That belief is drilled into his bones. He remembers the time. His father worked 3 jobs to keep the lights on. He remembers watching his mother stretch a single paycheck across a month. He remembers the quiet nights when the fridge was half empty, but the spirit in the house was still full. Those moments shaped him, made him tough, made him appreciate the value of effort. There's a myth that hard work doesn't pay off, that effort is outdated, that those who grind are fools in a world that rewards shortcuts. But that myth collapses in the face of reality, because when systems fail and industries crumble, the world still turns because of people like him, the ones who know how to fix things, how to build, how to adapt, the ones who don't need to be told what responsibility looks like. They've been living it their entire lives. He understands that this path isn't about comfort. It's about contribution. It's about giving more than you take, about building something bigger than yourself, whether that's a home, a business, or simply a reputation as someone who can be counted on. That kind of legacy doesn't need to be written in books. It's written in the faces of the children he provides for, in the friends who call when they need help, in the coworkers who know he won't flake when things get tough. The pride of a blue-collar worker is silent. You won't hear him brag. you won't see him chase recognition. But if you follow him through 1 week of his life, you'll learn more about perseverance, integrity, and responsibility than any seminar could ever teach. He's not perfect, he makes mistakes, he struggles, but he keeps going. That's the difference. That's what makes him different from those who wait for motivation or inspiration. He doesn't need it. His duty is his fuel. And no, not everyone understands. Some will judge the dirty boots, the grease-stained hands, the old truck, the worn-out jeans. But what they don't see is the discipline it takes to get up every day and give your best, knowing that no one is watching. What they don't see is the quiet pride of a job well done, even when no one says thank you. What they don't see is a man or a woman who has built a life brick by brick, not through shortcuts but through sacrifice. This isn't just a story of work, it's a story of identity, of someone who doesn't need validation to know their worth, who understands that dignity is built in the doing. That respect comes from action, not attention. And when you live like that long enough, you don't need to chase pride. It lives inside you. So the next time someone calls blue-collar work simple, understand this. There's nothing simple about sacrifice. There's nothing easy about showing up when your body hurts and your mind is tired. There's nothing soft about pushing forward with no one cheering you on. That kind of life takes a rare kind of strength. And while it may not come with trophies or applause, it comes with something better. Self-respect. A deep knowing that you gave your best, even when no one saw it. That you kept your word, even when it hurt. That you stood firm, even when life pushed back hard. And in the end, that's what real pride looks like. Not loud, not boastful. Just steady, quiet. There's a certain silence that follows a hard day's work, the kind that settles into the bones, not the ears. It's not the absence of sound, but the presence of something deeper. Effort fulfilled, promises kept, another day conquered. Without complaint. The blue-collar man doesn't talk much about what he goes through. Not because he has nothing to say, but because he was never taught to speak for sympathy. He was taught to speak through action. His silence isn't emptiness, it's discipline. A quiet armor forged in sweat and repetition. When the world around him spirals in noise, opinions, and distractions, he grounds himself in motion. While others seek attention, he seeks results. While others post about ambition, he lives it before sunrise. This kind of silence doesn't make him weak, it sharpens him. He's not waiting to be discovered, not waiting for a break, not looking for someone to give him a push. He is the push, no audience, no cheering section. Just him, the job, and the commitment he made to himself the day he decided he'd never be a victim. There's something powerful about a man who doesn't need to broadcast his struggle to validate it. He walks past comfort. He walks past complaint. He walks into the fire again and again because he understands strength isn't built when things are easy. It's built when no one is watching and you still give your all anyway. The blue-collar world doesn't hand out awards. There's no ceremony at the end of a 14-hour shift. No standing ovation when he fixes what someone else broke. No headline when he helps a coworker carry the load so they can make it through the day. But he doesn't do it for credit. He does it because that's what real men and women do. They show up. They lift others without expecting to be lifted themselves. They know that respect is not something you ask for, it's something you earn slowly through patterns of reliability. His silence is not a void. It's full of responsibility. It's full of early mornings, aching backs, cold coffee, sore hands, and long drives in beat-up trucks. It's full of the quiet calculation that every decision he makes impacts someone else. His wife, his kids, his team. That kind of pressure would break most people. But for him, it's the reason he gets up when he doesn't feel like it. It's the reason he keeps going when the money's tight and the odds are long. Because when he gave his word to provide, he meant it. Not until it got hard, but until it was done. There's a generation that grew up believing you needed attention to have value. But the blue-collar worker grew up believing you needed integrity to have worth. He doesn't wait for permission to chase progress. He doesn't ask for guarantees before giving effort. He doesn't need ideal conditions to start moving. He understands that life is messy, unpredictable, and unfair, and he doesn't expect it to be anything else. Instead of complaining, he adapts. Instead of stalling, he solves. He was never promised anything, and so everything he builds feels earned. That's why his silence carries weight. It's filled with grit, not emptiness, and through all that stillness, something remarkable is happening. He's becoming more than a worker, more than a provider, more than a name on a payroll. He's becoming an example. His children watch him without him even realizing it. They see how he handles stress, how he keeps calm under pressure, how he treats others with respect even when he's exhausted. They learn from how he stands when it would be easier to sit. They absorb that quiet toughness, that daily honor, that sense of purpose. He's teaching lessons with every step, every hour punched, every tool lifted. Not with words, but with presence. That's the thing about silence. It can build giants. Not the kind that shout from rooftops or demand recognition, but the kind that endure, that serve, that rise. And the blue-collar worker is one of those giants. He may not feel like it on a daily basis. He may doubt himself sometimes, especially when the world feels heavy. But every time he chooses to stay the course, to finish what he started, to carry someone else when needed, he's building something far greater than a paycheck. He's building legacy. And it's not just men, there are women standing. Shoulder to shoulder in this world, mechanics, carpenters, plumbers, factory workers, single moms working 2 shifts and still showing up at home with a smile. Their silence is just as strong, their struggle just as real, their power just as inspiring. The blue-collar life doesn't discriminate. It tests everyone who chooses it, and those who rise through it share a common bond: quiet. Resilience. There will always be those who underestimate the silent ones, who mistake quiet for weak, humble for soft, consistent for ordinary, but in time, the truth becomes clear. It's the silent ones who hold the line when it matters, the humble ones who lead when things fall apart, the consistent ones who never fail to show up, even when everything else is uncertain. That's who he is. That's who she is. Not a victim of circumstance, but a builder of results. So let others chase noise, let them seek the spotlight. Let them talk. Meanwhile, the blue-collar worker will keep stacking days of effort like bricks, quietly, powerfully, until one day the world will look around and realize the strongest among us were never the loudest. They were the ones working through the storm with their heads down and their hearts steady. At the end of the day, when the sun dips below the skyline and the noise of the world begins to fade, the blue-collar worker doesn't measure his worth in trophies or titles. He doesn't scroll through validation or count likes on a screen. He looks at what he built with his hands, his time, his sacrifice, and he knows it was real. The foundation he poured, the roof he nailed, the engine he repaired, the meals he provided, it all stands as proof that he showed up when it mattered. And that, in the quiet of twilight, is enough. He's not driven by fantasy. He's not waiting for someone to save him or make things easier. He knows life doesn't hand out fairness. It offers opportunity hidden beneath hard work. And that's where he thrives, in the grit, in the daily grind, in the long haul. What others call struggle, he calls routine. What others avoid, he embraces, because the path he chose wasn't meant to be easy. It was meant to be worth it. You can't fake the kind of endurance this life demands. It's not taught in textbooks or found in motivational slogans. It's earned over years of early mornings, late nights, and 1,000 small decisions to keep going when quitting felt closer. It's built through mistakes, through falling behind and getting back up, through putting pride aside for progress. The blue-collar legend doesn't seek perfection. He just keeps moving forward. That's what sets him apart. He doesn't just build things, he builds through things, through pain, through setbacks, through silence, through storms that would make others fold. He's built to last because his heart isn't fueled by ease. It's strengthened by struggle, and he doesn't just carry himself. He carries his family. His crew? His legacy. In a world that moves fast and forgets faster, he stands as a reminder real work still matters. Character still matters, honor still matters, and those who live with quiet strength, they may not trend, but they endure. Long after the noise fades, the world still runs on the backs of men and women like him. So, no, he may never wear a crown. But when the world falls apart and people look for someone to lean on, they always find the ones who never left the foundation. The ones who never needed praise to keep going. The ones who were built different. The blue-collar worker is more than a job title. He is the soul of what lasts, the backbone of progress, the proof that greatness doesn't shout. It shows up.